Calix Boxing 2.0 or Cali X Boxing 2.0. I'm over here joined by Dragon Style, D-Style Boxing, and we're here on a hump day, Wednesday. It is Wednesday, right? Yeah, Wednesday. Yes, I'm still thrown off from being in the desert for the weekend, but it is Wednesday, and this is going to be a numbers show. We're going to be talking pay-per-view numbers.
I know I'm always thrown off. So I'm in the desert.
Hey, if you were in the swamp, you might be thrown off. You're used to the desert. But look, it'll be a numbers show. Pay-per-view numbers, pay-per-view buys. People love talking pay-per-view buys. Who's the draw? Did the fight break even? Did it not break even? I have an outlook on all of this, and it's going to be a tough show to navigate through, but pay-per-view numbers need to be talked about, I guess.
We'll figure it out, right? We'll figure it out.
We'll try to work through it and figure it out. And we'll also be talking some betting lines later on in the show, Shakur Stevenson versus Conceicao, because I see some value there. There's value in this fight, and I didn't think there would be. But as I'm looking down the prop bets, there's some value in this fight. And there's also possible value with Joyce versus Joseph Parker. So we'll be looking at that later on in the show as well. Shout out to my guy, Chauncey Pearls. Appreciate all the views I've been getting. Appreciate all the archive views. And make sure to keep putting those comments below in the archive section of the show.
100.
As you're watching. And all the live viewers as well. Make sure to hit the like button as you come in. Get us to 50 likes on this show. That's the goal. Get us to 50 likes. And also be leaving your comments in the comment section. Now, pay-per-view. Big Dan Rayfield yesterday announced the fight was a huge disappointment. 550 to 575,000 pay-per-view buys. Eddie Hearn responded with a Pinocchio nose, and he's out there saying 1.06 worldwide, and we have this whole discrepancy. And look, this is what I brought up in the past. It's the issue with the whole pay-per-view thing is a lot of promoters, managers are not transparent about what the pay-per-views are actually doing. Mm-hmm. Let's take in point Al Heyman. Al Heyman doesn't even report the numbers. PBC doesn't even report their numbers anymore. We have like 7-8 straight PBC fights where we still don't have the numbers. There's no numbers. So that's the first issue. The second issue is, say, when Tank Davis and Leonard Ellerby come out there and say, hey, we did 250,000 buys. And then you have other industry insiders saying, hey, this fight did 50,000 buys. What do we go off of? So we don't even have concrete, transparent numbers anymore to even know who is what. And it's what I brought up from Spence versus Crawford in the negotiations, right? People are out there publicly negotiating these fights like managers, and they don't even know what the real numbers are. The only people who know the real numbers are the ones actually negotiating the fight, because none of us know what Terrence Crawford did pay-per-view wise. None of us know Errol Spence did pay-per-view wise. So that's the first issue. The second issue is they're not taking the whole picture into play, right? Yes, it did. Let's pretend it did 550, 575 in the U.S. I'm skeptical about that number, by the way. But you're not taking into what it's doing worldwide, what it's generating, and also what the live gate is generating.
Right, which matters.
Any thoughts on any of this so far?
Yeah, I tweeted out. I said, even if Dan Rafael's numbers are accurate, because people are already calling it a failure, disappointment, and like, okay, but are you taking account? And I said in the tweet, I said, worldwide numbers, which in this case, DAZN does have subscriptions and or sells the fights to other countries. Countries that don't have DAZN or don't have a deal with DAZN, they probably have a rights fee of some sort, like in Mexico. Whoever has the rights to the Canelo fight needs to fork up some money to have the rights to the fight, right? Sponsorships, gate, which is a big deal, right? Other little factors like merchandise, etc. But I mean, all these things matter, all of them. Like if you're going to say, we're going to sit here and worry about whether this event made money or not, because let's be honest, a lot of people want a Canelo fight to fail for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to do that, then we need to take into account all the money that it's generating. That does include the world. This whole idea, like, no, but that's just that's just here in the U.S. That's not. I mean, around the world, sure, but in the U.S., it only did this. Like, okay, but I'm sure, like, the DAZN is not going to say, man, like, yeah, we made money, but in the U.S., we just broke even because of the U.S. Okay, if they broke even, then that means all the other money from around the world is profit then. Okay? That sounds really good to me. That sounds like the rights fee that you got from Mexico with 20 plus million people watching. All that right there, that's profit. The gate money,
So
profit.
you live right on there. But by the way, while you're talking about that, you live right on there on the border. What is Mexico like on a Canelo fight night?
I'll be honest, it's not like I crossed the border to look, but I will say that El Paso in general, during the Canelo fight night, all the bars here for the most part have the fights. Okay, they do get packed, and people in general are watching the fight here. So that's going to translate to across the border, period. It's going to translate to that. But there's definitely energy. Now, the only good comparison of this fight is not all the other fights we have now. You have to compare it to the other Gennady Golovkin Canelo fights, right? If you compare it to that, then I'll concede that those fights had more buzz and they were bigger, but that's only if you compare it to those fights.
Eddie Hearn just gave out numbers on that. First fight did $27 million live gate. Second fight did $24 million live gate. Third fight, $22 million. $22 million. That's a big number.
And then people will say, and look, I'm gonna have to call her out, but it is what it is. I don't like to say names. I'm gonna say a name. Like Raging Babe put a tweet out, and God bless her, but she said, "Oh, look, the gate was terrible the second time." No, like the second gate that's 24 million. What are you talking about? Like this fight's gate did more than the gates, any of the gates for Fury Wilder. So we're going to call this a failure, and then you have to look at the trends. Like, do you really believe, like, it didn't fall off that much? So do you really believe that the buys fell out that much? Because all you got to look at the trending, and boxing handicaps itself by saying, oh, we're only going to report, the domestic, like, because for a long time only the U.S. sold pay-per-view. That's why, like everybody else got it for free on television. We were the idiots buying it. Now, everybody's an idiot. They're selling it to everybody, right? So, of course, we got to report that's what UFC does. They report the worldwide numbers.
And here's what we'll all agree on. Let's focus on what we can all agree on, and then we'll go out from there. What we all agree on and what is a fact is this was a pay-per-view. Outside of US, it was a pay-per-view in Canada, UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand. Those aren't big markets. They're just not big markets. It's not a pay-per-view in Mexico. It's not a pay-per-view in Kazakhstan.
Oh, UK is, but I got you.
In Latin America. But these are small markets, and what everybody agrees on is there's no way that the pay-per-view buys are going to be 500 to 600,000 in those markets. So somebody's wrong with these numbers. Now,
no, but I'll disagree slightly, though. I'll disagree slightly. The UK is a big market per capita.
It's a big market, but what I see everybody agreeing on right now, everybody from Eddie Hearn to Dan Raphael to a guy like Fight Oracle who follows this stuff closely on Twitter, it's the number is not going to be 500 to 600,000.
I see what you mean. Okay,
it's not going to be half of this. It's not going to be half of the pay-per-view buys. It's not even going to be 70%.
Because if you take those numbers, like if you take, and again, this is just speculation, but if you take all those countries you stated, at least 70% of those are going to be from just the UK, right? Like those other markets are not big boxing markets. They'll get some numbers out of there, but not a lot. But let's say that's the case. It might be 80% UK for all we know. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be 400,000 from just the UK. I just don't think that's the case. But I think combined it could be like 200,000 combined from those countries. That's
right. So what I'm saying is 70%, 80% of this is going to be US buys, at least.
Oh, yeah.
At least. So the discrepancy ends up being is Eddie Hearn right? And if it's 1.06, which Dan Raphael is not disputing, it should be 800,000 to 900,000 US buys. Where the Fight Oracle,
unless we're underestimating what the UK did.
Right. But what the Fight Oracle is saying is he doesn't think the overall number is 1.06. That I don't know. And this is the whole frustration of, are we getting real numbers? Are we getting concrete numbers? That's the problem.
We're not going to know because the zone. And here's why I question: how does Dan Raphael know? Like, they don't need to release shit. Like, that's just because they're not bound to anything, right? But I will say this, Calix, and this is just simple math. Since the zone owns the app, they get 100% of the proceeds. When even if we take the 500,000, 530, whatever it was, money generated, not the gross amount, just as far as the money they take home, is still more, because when Plan Fought Canelo, yes, it's on PBC pay-per-view on Showtime, but the distributors, Dish Network, DirecTV, AT&T, Fios, Comcast, they take close to 50% of that money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people need to realize that. I think that's why another reason why that model is so outdated, because the things that were necessary to bring pay-per-view to us is no longer really needed with these apps. Like, they could go directly to the source, to the customer, right? So it's still like made, like, if you argue that this fight lost money, then the planned fight lost way more money.
Mm-hmm.
If you do the math, because it didn't do as good of a gate. And even if you take the numbers for face value, you got to cut that in half.
Yeah,
you got to cut it in half.
People are going to ask, why are you talking about pay-per-view numbers? And I hate talking about it, but the issue here is there's a bigger issue here. It's what we talked about yesterday. It's people swerving into something they don't need to be swerving into. It's hoping that Canelo fails. And I got news for you. If Canelo fails, the rest of the market fails. I had a friend in Vegas.
It impacts everybody.
Lives in Vegas. I met up with Friday night. Again, Sunday morning, brought me to the airport. He sells, and I'm not going to put out his name, implicate him. I'm not a rat. I'm not a snitch. He sells the packages on the Fire Stick where everything is built into it. And this isn't your old school hacked Fire Stick, jailbroken type of thing. This is every app built into this. Mm-hmm. Every single app built into it. It's a guide like DirecTV, Dish TV. Everything's easy to access. And he says, you no longer have to buy pay-per-views. Here it is. No pop-ups. No mess streams, no crack streams. Here it is, right here for you. No pop-ups, no viruses. Here it is for you. You no longer have to buy a pay-per-view the rest of your life. Now, I'm not going to implicate myself either.
Until eventually Fire Stick cracks the code, but I got you.
But what I'm saying is, I didn't take it. But these things are floating around everywhere. And from what I'm hearing, they're very good. This is like having a direct TV right there.
It is. And I'll take it a step further. I know of people that do these Fire Sticks, and then it's not like a one-time purchase. Like they charge people. Mm-hmm. Like it's only like $14 a month or something, but they're making a lot of money off of this. Now, me personally, it's just me. I'm not judging anybody. Just don't tell me about it. You know what I mean? Like I don't condone that stuff. That's just me. But I worked in the industry. I know what it takes to get channels out, to get content out, and there's a lot of red tape to do this stuff, and that industry is dying as it is. So stealing from it is kind of a thing, but it's whatever. Do it, whatever you got to do. But me personally, man, I want to support the sport. Just give me a good fucking fight, and I'll spend my money for it. You know what I mean? I will. Like just give me a good fight. I bought this fight. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't have a problem spending my money on the sport. Just give me a good product, but give us most of it for free, though. Not everything should be on pay-per-view, and it's frustrating. And then you wonder why people need to go through these links to find someone that's gonna, give it to them for free. A lot of times, it's not even because they want to; it's because they can't afford it. Like they can't afford to buy. A lot, and look, and we live in a culture now where nobody wants to admit that it's hard to be buying pay-per-views, bro. I don't care what tax bracket you're on or how much money you make a year. Spending that amount of money is a lot. Like it just is. It doesn't matter if I don't give a shit. You make $400,000 a year. It's still a lot of money, So
it's a lot of money, and it's also ease of access. Like I said, boxing, and this is what I want people to take from all of this is. Boxing is headed in the wrong direction in general. Okay, so it's like when we were in high school and all of a sudden dudes start burning CDs and you're like, the dude's telling you, why are you going to buy this CD for $15, $20 when I can give it to you for $5 right here? And then one guy goes, buys a CD and burns it for his friends. It's a dying industry. Pay-per-view is a dying industry. So boxing is going in the wrong direction. going against this headwind, against piracy, against all this stuff that they cannot possibly fight, and going in the wrong direction by putting on more pay-per-views. And Canelo is flying against his headwind, and he's still doing quite well. Still making
and you know what it is?
million,
like
22 million live gate, 1.06 worldwide. Whether it broke even or not, I'll never be able to know. We'll never know. We'll never have that type of transparency. So boxing's headed in the wrong direction.
You know why? You know why Canelo's selling? I'll tell you why he's selling. Because nobody wants to be the dude with the laptop or with the fire stick, like in front of everybody at the house, like getting it illegally. Like it's not a good look. Like it just
worrying
isn't.
about
like,
it buffering, right?
Yeah. Like maybe if it's like with a close friend and you both know what you're doing, but if you're gonna be inviting people over, yo, come to my house, BYOB, and then they see like this shit's like not the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
At least me, I would be embarrassed. That's just me. Like I'll just buy the real thing. You know what I mean? And I also want someone to be held liable or be not liable, but like be responsible if it doesn't work. I want somebody to answer me. You know, you can't. Who are you going to complain to if it buffers and you don't watch it? Like if I buy it, I have proof that I bought it. Yo, DAZN, what's up with this shit? You know what I mean? The shit should work. Like I want to hold somebody responsible, but that's just me. But I think that's why people invite people to have fight parties. And they don't want to be that dude with the laptop and going to crack streams, or they don't want to be the dude with the fire stick, and they kind of know what they're doing. And then well, why is it the Sky announcers, or like what's going on? Why is there British voices here? Why is it in Chinese, like or whatever it is, right? and I'm just saying, bro, it's ghetto as fuck to be stealing it that way. It's cheap.
It's the bad non pay-per-view worthy pay-per-view.
If you get 10 people together, well, you can't pitch in for an $80 fight between 10 people. I'm just saying. You know what I mean?
I agree. But that's where we're at, though. We're still going against that headwind and putting on more pay-per-views. And the other issue is this. I have a real issue with us actively cheering against people who are at least giving us transparency and pay-per-view worthy pay-per-views, and we're giving a pass to, and I'm going to speak about Al Heyman. Once again, I'm going to be called an Al Heyman hater. The guy has done one interview in his boxing career as an advisor.
But he's not a promoter,
manager,
though.
Advisor. He's done one interview, and that was to speak on
shadow promoter, brother. That's what he is.
He spoke on Vernon Forrest, rest in peace, his first fighter's death. That's his one interview. So this guy's not giving you any type of transparency. He doesn't care enough about you to come out and give interviews. And there are people actively cheering for him when he's giving us the crappiest pay-per-views. And on top of that, we're not getting any numbers. And the numbers we get, they're so far spread out from this guy saying this number, that guy saying that number. We don't know what to make of any of this stuff.
You know how we'll know if the numbers are real?
Shy away from talking about this stuff.
This is how we'll know. Let's see what they offer Canelo in his next fight. If the DAZN is offering him like crazy money still, that means they're making money with Canelo. Nobody's going to be paying Canelo $40 million, his opponent's $10 million, and then they still got to pay the undercard. They probably spend like maybe another $200,000 on the undercard or something, and then promotion and all that. No one's going to be paying that just to pay it. Like that's how we'll know. Like if the next fight, like we hear, oh, the DAZN's offering Canelo $25 million. They're no longer offering him $40 million. Then we know, bro. Like at that point, we're gonna know what's up. You know what I mean? If they say we're no longer gonna be
lines, right? Because if they make Tank versus Ryan next, that means that Tank's numbers aren't that great. They had to go to the bigger fight next. If PBC comes to the table in 2023, offers Canelo this astronomical deal, which we expect that they'll do, business is still open. Business is still doing well. So that's what people need to look at. You need to be able to read between the lines. But what bothers me is when a news story is broken the way it's broken yesterday. Yeah. And it's broken the way it is. Oh, this is terrible. This is a terrible number.
Why put these are terrible numbers? These are disappointing numbers. This like what's other than I need clicks or I want to get attention.
Just drop the number.
What reason would you have? Like, you know what I mean? I just don't. I don't get it. Like, and then I want to know, how did Dan Rafael get these numbers?
And the other problem that I have with that D-style is, why aren't they calling out PBC, say Top Rank, for not giving them numbers? If they're getting the DAZN numbers within 72 hours, some kind of way, they're getting that number. Why are they not getting the other numbers? And if not, why are they not yelling from the mountaintops, hey, why are we not getting these numbers? Why are these numbers not transparent? That's the other issue I have with this whole story as well, with the whole pay-per-view stuff.
Yeah, the whole thing's stupid, bro. Like, look, this is how I feel about this, okay? First of all, I'm not a fan of hard rules, bro. I don't like this whole, like, well, I don't talk numbers ever, or I talk numbers all the time. Or, look, people want perspective on the numbers, right? And I think when it comes to pay-per-views, like, the reason people care, because they want to know the state of the sport, right? They want perspective. Like, do people care about the sport that I love? Because that does tap into the future of the sport. If Saul Canelo Alvarez is failing as a pay-per-view star, if he's failing as a star in general, and he's the biggest star in boxing, what does that say about the rest of the sport? It's not a good look for the sport, right? Like, Saul Canelo Alvarez, when he was signed to DAZN, that motivated. The DAZN was happy. Remember when HBO decided to no longer cover boxing? DAZN comes in, right? And then they signed this big deal with Canelo. They already had a fight with Joshua and Povetkin in the U.S. Like, they were just still doing fights. But they started to make this shit, right? Like, they were pumped when Canelo signed with them, right? 365 million, so many fights. They got excited, maybe too excited. They started making it rain. This was the zone. Like, you know what I mean? The zone was like, Mikey, let's go, baby. They Mikey versus they dropped, like, they gave Mikey $7 million. Like, this is crazy, right? Like, there was nobody around there to tell them, hold up, bro. Mikey will fight for $1 million, bro. Like, you don't have to throw $7 million at the dude. Okay, and if he's gonna fight for $7 million, who's he fighting? Jesse Vargas? How much are you gonna give Jesse? $5 million? Like, what? Like, so they definitely had no perspective on the sport, right? But here's what I'm saying. Since they signed Canelo, since they were excited at the prospect of having Canelo on, that motivated them to say, you know what? But we could do that. We could have that trilogy with Gennady on the zone. That's going to kick off our platform. Hey, Gennady, you want $20 million to fight? Boom. Like, Gennady wasn't worth that. Now, I'm happy for Gennady. He got paid. But like, let's be honest. He got that because they were expecting him to fight Canelo, right? To boost up their app. Then they started getting all these fighters, because in their mind, oh, we're going to have Canelo. He's going to be our poster child, and we're going to start promoting all these fighters. So they were just, they were making it rain on these fighters. And here you go, all right? The better Canelo does, okay, the better it is for everybody. The Golden Boy was basically subsidizing all their fighters with Canelo. And Canelo found this out and was like, yo, what's going on over here, right? What do you mean? Like it's whatever, but the Golden Boy leveraged themselves into a deal with the zone. They lied to the zone and said, oh, yeah, totally. Well, Canelo agrees to fight Gennady Golovkin next. No problem. They lied, bro, right? And Canelo was like, I never agreed to fight Gennady again. I wanted to become undisputed at 168. Like, what's going on over here, right? So that was the whole thing. But if this event was successful, you think the suits give a fuck, Alex? If they look at the whole pot, you think they give a shit where the money came from? You think they say to themselves, yeah, we made money, but I mean, look at the US though. Like, they don't care about it. They're looking at the whole enchilada. They're looking at everything and what they made, right? They made money off of having Hennessy on that screen. They made money off of that. All right. They made money off of all of it. And if they're making money off of Canelo, that's going to motivate them to continue their boxing brand. And to continue a boxing brand, you need what? More boxers. Therefore, they're not going to do what's happening on the PBC side. They're cutting funds over there. You know, I know, because what day is the Jamal fight with Tim Tszyu?
January 28th.
Because they don't got the money to pay the dudes. Okay, that's why. All right? They're cutting funds over there, whereas the zone still seems to be investing in boxing.
And that's why we were talking yesterday about Canelo is obviously on some sort of descent. We don't know where it's at, but you better be warming somebody up in the bullpen. You guys out there who are trying to cheer this on as if, oh, this is a Canelo flop, which I still don't believe. I'm still very skeptical. The dude saying this is a flop. I just don't believe it. But you dudes out there who are trying to make it that and are trying to cheer for this dude's downfall, if you're doing that, you better be warming somebody else up, because boxing, a key ingredient, you need a dude. And if there's no dude, if there's no big events in boxing, good luck for the sport moving forward. I don't understand what people are cheering for out there. I don't understand. I don't get it. Why would you cheer for this dude's downfall right now, especially when you have nobody warmed up in the bullpen yet? All right.
Nobody's warmed
you better
up in the
hope he does
bullpen.
well, because it trickles down. And if he's not doing well, if his numbers are really as bad as they're trying to make him out to be,
Yes, Canelo's not doing good. Yes, like, come on, this is crazy, bro.
Yeah, and this was the biggest fight of the year, by the way. It was the biggest fight of the year as far as financially. It just was. And that's not going to, no matter what you think about if it's green or red, that's the truth. Nobody else is getting 45 to 50. Nobody else on the B side is getting 20 million. What's Tank's B side?
But by the way, what's with this whole, I just want to address a comment in chat by Checkmate, right? I know everybody's allowed to give their opinion. But just because Eddie Hearn said something, now that becomes the bar, right? Because Eddie Hearn said it's 10 times bigger, then that's the bar now? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, what do you mean? Because Eddie Hearn said it's going to do 10 times more than Crawford. Like, now let's say Crawford Spence was going to do, let's say it does 500,000, right? So it has to do 10 times that amount for this to be a success? Mm-hmm. That's crazy, bro. Like, even if you take 300,000. So it has to do, it needs to do 10, it needs to do 3 million buys for it to be a success? No, right? Like, I don't know about that. Okay. Again, and I said this earlier. So if you compare it to the first two fights, it did do less numbers in the first two fights, but we're comparing it to the other Gennady Golovkin, Canelo fights. That's what we're comparing it to. Like, at the end of the day, right?
That's what we go back to from yesterday.
All I'm saying is standards. We can't just create a bar. Oh, the bar is 10 times more than what Crawford Spence would do. Well, that's a made up bar, right? Whatever Eddie Hearn says doesn't apply to me, and like, in my opinion, or Calix's opinion, or anybody else's opinion. An event is a success if it makes money, right? Like that's what makes it a success. Any added rules, if you have a hard rule, like, oh, well, it's just if it makes money in the U.S. or only if it makes money in the U.K. or only if it makes money like, and it's like this and like that and like this and no, like at the end of the day, if it made money, it made money, right? Like, that's just how I feel about it. All right. So, and if he's not generating money, well, I'm interested to see how much PBC is going to offer Canelo then, right? Because they're offering him a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, the same with the zone. That's how I personally feel. Yeah,
and the PBC is going to be offering him a lot of money next year as well. Why should we like? You don't have to like him. That's not what I'm saying. There's a very different.
And by the way, I'm not like Eddie Hearn's PR guy where I need to answer for what Eddie Hearn said. If Eddie Hearn said that it's going to do 10 times better,
then you're wrong.
Then that's what Eddie Hearn said. I don't believe. If you want to ask me, if you ask me, I believe, and maybe I don't know if Calix agrees with this or anybody agrees with this. I think Crawford Spence does about 700,000. That's my opinion, but I think it does good numbers.
Yeah, U.S. I don't agree with people saying 400 to 500,000. I think it'll do 700.
It does better, and I have some precedent to back that up. But I'll say it really quick. So, and we can always do a more extensive show about this, but there was nothing with De La Hoya and Trinidad that would indicate that they were going to do 1.4. Like, by themselves, they weren't doing anywhere near those numbers, right?
Please address that comment, because it's an easy one. I just
want to finish my point. So there was nothing that indicated that De La Hoya Mayweather were going to do 2.4 million, right? So there's nothing that indicated that. Even if you added their best numbers, like De La Hoya 1.4 with Trinidad, and then Mayweather like close to 400,000, nowhere near the 2.4, 2.5, right? But there's always like a leap that fights make that goes above their projections when it's a fight of this magnitude that people really want, right? I think that's a real thing, and that's why I believe that fight will do about 700,000. As far as these you are American, sir, since when have Americans counted global views? It doesn't matter like when Americans did it or when they didn't do it, or like the point is the following: is money real from around the world or not? If it is, then it matters, right? Coca-Cola has global numbers, okay? Like their profits are based on global numbers. Pepsi, same thing. Brands that sell clothing, brands that sell merchandise of any sort, right? The numbers matter. Nobody says that the Super Bowl does more numbers than the World Cup because only the U.S. numbers matter, okay? The World Cup does way more numbers worldwide, okay? And that's just a fact, right? So at the end of the day, money's real. Like Barcelona is like 3 or 4 richest like franchise on the planet, right? Like only like the Dallas Cowboys and I think like the Lakers and a couple more teams, right? Maybe the Yankees are worth more than them because that money is real over there. Okay, money is real everywhere, right? So we need to take everything into account. That's what the UFC does. That's what WWE does. They sell pay-per-view events to people. So that's what boxing needs to start doing.
Wake up.
Money matters.
Wake up. It's 2022. And do we really believe Spence versus Crawford to be offered as a pay-per-view in the UK, Ireland, Australia?
I'll answer one more question for him. Do we know Floyd's global views? I wasn't talking about Floyd, but I'll just say it anyway. Do we know Canelo Triple G 1 and 2 global views? Do we care? No, you don't care. Don't speak for me. Speak for yourself. Okay, don't speak for everybody. Speak for yourself. If you don't care, you're 100% entitled to care and not care about whatever you want to care about. However, here's what I'll say. Floyd versus Haddon, right, did 900,000 domestically, and it did like over 2 million around the world. And I know that because it was on pay-per-view in the UK, okay, where it did close to 1.5 million. Mm-hmm. And that money, Floyd definitely got a cut out of it. That was real money that he got, okay? Mm-hmm. So at that time, when they reported 900,000, I was on YouTube and I said, the global number, guys, is over 2 million buys that fight did. So if you're looking for somebody that never gave Floyd credit for global numbers, you're talking to the wrong dude because I did talk about those things.
He thinks he's battling. That is what it is. He's got it's the straw man thing, right? Straw man. These dudes can't battle Iron Man. It's straw man. What do you say about this? They obviously have no receipts. What about this? Dude, I'm not Eddie Hearn. I didn't say the event was going to be 10 times bigger than Crawford versus Spence. That's not
that's the bar. It's a failure.
Go battle somebody else because you're obviously battling somebody who doesn't exist over here.
Yeah, find someone.
Like I'm talking about coddling. I'm probably coddling these dudes. You're stupid. Stop being stupid. I had this dude on my channel for 15 minutes and let him verbally vomit. Lomachenko's resume isn't as good as Tank Davis is. You're stupid. Stop being stupid. I'm tired of coddling these dudes. Just go somewhere else. God.
Look, if you want to do the rounds, trying to convince people, and do these narratives, go ahead, brother. But at the end of the day, raw numbers are just raw numbers, okay? Like nobody generates what Canelo generates, at least in North America. Like those are just the facts. If you want to put things in, if you want to move the goalposts, if you want to make it about what Eddie Hearn said, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what Eddie Hearn said. To me, I don't have an Eddie Hearn Bible. Eddie Hearn's word is not gospel to me. I don't worship Eddie Hearn. Okay, I do my fair share of criticizing Eddie Hearn. All right. So your little moments, they're over, brother. That's it.
It's done. Donezo. No, you're not getting the list. You're not getting the link. Go somewhere else. Go on your channel. Post this, screenshot it, do whatever you want. Make a video out of it. Go somewhere else. You're stupid. We're done with this. Joe Joyce versus Joseph Parker. Betting odds. What do you think about this fight overall coming into this weekend?
Oh, man. I actually think I've been thinking about it, but it's actually a good fight, like on paper, because it makes you think. Mm-hmm. I do think Joe Joyce is going to win a decision, though. I think he's gonna be on Parker the whole time. Now, look, I get it. I criticize him all the time about being slow. He's on dial-up. You know what I mean? but it's like unrelenting AOL. Like the AOL doesn't stop. Like, you know what I mean? It just comes after you, and then you see it coming, and it's like I heard Andre Ward say this once, and he said, and people thought he was making fun of Frotch, but I actually don't think he was making fun of him. He goes like this. He's like, you know what? It was kind of. He said, I'm trying to remember how he said it. I want to get his quote right, but he said something along the lines of, it's funny because when I was fighting Ward, Frotch, it was hard to time him at first because he was like so slow that I couldn't like quite get the timing right. And like I think there might be something to that because you're kind of waiting to counter something and you're used to a certain kind of rhythm and it takes you off rhythm. And I think that happens with fighters with Joyce. Like I think he's like, and they're kind of like waiting, and if they throw it too fast, too slow, like it's a timing thing. He's got that hammer-like jab. I think it's going to be on Parker. And Parker is just a little too what's the word I want to look? I don't want to insult the guy. Passive or too like
I would say pedestrian. There's the word.
He's pedestrian. He's just kind of going through the motions and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Fighter, but like Parker's solid. Like that's a solid heavyweight. Like he's that dude. Like he's around 5 through 8, solid.
Right.
But Joyce,
people
don't realize this. He's 36 years old.
Refute what Eddie Hearn said. No, nobody's refuting what Eddie Hearn said. And then like, what's going on over here, bro? Oh, Eddie Hearn, did he or did he not? Facts. He said 10 times more. Did he do 10 times more? Facts. Like stop. Just go away. Or be nice. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I'm not going to address him anymore. I just want to point that out.
No, but it does need to be said that I've had a lot of patience. Like I mean, people know this. Like I've had a lot of patience, but come on. But anyway, but Joyce, what I love about him is he's clearly slow. But he clearly has success in his style.
By the way, he's a smart dude. We're not talking about we're not saying short but slow. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're saying speed.
He's a heavyweight Alfredo Angulo, is what he is. Heavyweight Alfredo Angulo. And he executes his plan. He executes his plan to a T. It doesn't look pretty in the early rounds, right? It doesn't look pretty. It's is this guy going to connect? But you can tell his opponent is reacting to every single thing. He's reacting to every single thing. Every single punch that's thrown, if it's thrown on the arm, he reacts with the arm. If it's thrown downstairs, he drops his arms. If it's thrown upstairs, he's reacting to it. He's reacting to every single punch, his opponent. So that tells us he's heavy-handed. He's landing. He's landing because he's big. He's landing because he's walking you down. I can't think of a nickname out there. I'm sure there are, but that is more accurate than the Juggernaut. That is an accurate nickname for this guy. He's a juggernaut. He's going to come forward. He's going to try to land on you. He's going to try to get you out of there. And when I look at these betting odds, he's a slight favorite against Joseph Parker. But what I like is the stoppage plus 250 because I think Joyce is eventually going to get to Joseph Parker. And if we had a nickname for Joseph Parker, it would be Joseph Pedestrian Parker. He's a good fighter, but he is sort of like pedestrian at the same time. He's a guy that I think Joyce, if Joyce is who we think he is, if he is who people say he is, he should win this fight by middle to late round stoppage. It's going to be a tricky fight. It's not easy.
Yeah, like I kind of feel like Parker fights like there's a lot of innocent pedestrians on in the way, and he doesn't want to injure them. That's how he fights. You know, he's kind of careful. He doesn't want to like do too much. You know what I mean? He reminds me of the dude from X-Men, like the other guy, Colossus, when he's like the nice guy. You know what I mean? And he's like looking after his little sister, whoever it is. You know what I mean? He's just kind of like passive and like he's got all this potential, but like he always gets his ass kicked by the Juggernaut, you know, because Juggernaut doesn't give a fuck who's in the way. Like he knows he throws a pedestrian in front of him and he's going to protect him and not focus on the fight. That's how it is. You know what I mean?
And if this happened, if Parker won, I wouldn't be shocked. It wouldn't shock me. All I'm saying is when I play this fight out in my head, I think that Joe Joyce is going to have his way as the fight goes on. I think it's going to be one of those typical Joe Joyce fights where
Like,
Joseph Parker looks good early in the fight. Joseph Parker is maybe up 4-0, but you see each round that Joseph Parker is also.
I mean, some people might have it a draw.
Why you gotta do that?
It's just like,
Why you gotta do that to our guy?
oh man.
And it might actually be a draw. This is one of those type of fights that if Joe Joyce doesn't get
sure.
Parker out of there, it could be a draw. It could be. It could be one of those close fights. But I just think as each round goes on, Joseph Parker is winning the early rounds, but he's winning them less as each round goes on. He's reacting more to the output and the power more as each round goes on. And then once we get into the middle rounds, that's where we're going to be able to tell. Because if Joseph Parker is still having his way in the middle rounds, then we got ourselves this. Then we got ourselves Joseph Parker winning a decision. But if not, if it plays out the way I think it is, Joe Joyce gets to him middle to late rounds and ends up getting a stoppage. I just think it's just weird, man. He's one of the weirdest fighters to watch, right? It's like, how is he having that success he's having? How is he getting those guys out of there being the slow guy that he is? But you see how his opponents are reacting. You know what it reminds me of? Better Biev. Before the Joe Smith Jr. fight, Better Biev was in fights and you're like, he's getting the knockouts, but it doesn't fly off the screen. But at the same time, I'm seeing how his opponents are reacting to him. I'm seeing how his peers are treating him when his name comes up as a possibility to fight him. And they're not jumping to fight this guy. And I think Joe Joyce is one of those type of guys. He doesn't fly off the screen, but he has success. And I think this fight.
Look, and I think that this would answer a lot of things for us, right? So, as you guys know, and I got this from Michael J. White, and it makes a lot of sense, right? And I don't know who's ever seen this video, but you got to look it up. It's Kimbo Slice gets a lesson from Michael J. White about something, whatever it is, and he basically he shows something, right? And in that fight, or not fight, in that whatever you want to call it, he points out about, and it's true, like when you guys are driving on the road, as we know, when we press the brake, the red lights come on the back of the vehicle. The reason for that is because we all have a delay of some sort. You know what I mean? Like we all have a delay of reaction time from when they hit the brake. The red light actually helps us like react faster, right? Now in boxing, unless the fighter says I'm about to throw the punch, it's going to take you a moment to react to that, right? Now, look, we have freaks of nature that have existed in boxing that are above that. Either they could see punches coming, whatever, right? But for the most part, most fighters, even if it is slow, don't see it coming, right? And Michael J. White actually shows Kimbo, he said, I'm going to throw 3 punches. Don't let me hit you. Don't let me hit your palm. Move your hand out of the way. No matter what, move your hand out of the way. He throws the 2 of them fast, but he telegraphs it with his shoulder, right? He goes like this, and then he throws it as fast as he can. Kimbo moves his hand. The 3rd punch, he doesn't telegraph his shoulder, and he throws it very slowly, and it hits Kimbo's hand. And he's like, well, what? What the hell happened? Everybody's laughing. I think what Joe Joyce does, because we all laugh because he's slow and he's very methodical, and his jab, it's this.
It's all short, right?
It's all short. Boom, boom. So guys have a hard like it's the way he's throwing them, right? And we all wonder like why can't he see them coming? Like what do you mean? Those punches are slow as shit. Dubois, what the fuck? You kept getting hit with that jab, bro. Like you couldn't get away from it. Like, but like that's what it is, guys. Like I think there's like a unless he runs into someone who has like freak. Like I think Usyk has really good reflexes. I think Fury has really good reflexes actually. Maybe they'll be able to kind of time that without a problem, but most fighters, bro, he's going to be hitting him with that jab, and I think Parker's one of them. Yeah. I just want to point that out. And if you guys don't believe me, just look it up. Kimbo Slice gets a lesson from Michael J. White, and I think it's actually it could help explain to us the phenomenon why these guys don't see this fucking punch coming.
I'm gonna have to look that up because that sounds interesting, and it also explains what we have going on with Joe Joyce because everything is short. And another thing that like about Joe Joyce is it's not like he's getting hit with a million punches either, right? It's not like
Right.
his reflexes are terrible. He's
I
getting
mean,
hit
it
coming
does,
in, right. But he's not getting lit up coming in, and then he just leans on you. Then when he gets on the inside, he's landing more shots than his opponent because it's all short. It's all shorter shots, especially for a bigger guy. So that's what we think is going to happen. I like Joyce by stoppage, and I'm playing Joe Joyce. I actually played already Joe Joyce plus 250, and I played that light. The one that I played heavy, we're about to talk about. But what's your result in this fight? You think Joe Joyce wins by decision, knockout?
decision. It's gonna be tough to stop Parker. Like Parker, he loses, but he doesn't get knocked out. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just, you know what, he reminds me of Danny Jacobs in a way, like a heavyweight, not style wise, but just kind of like he'll do what he needs to do to be competitive enough to not embarrass himself, but like not quite win the decision. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's how it's gonna go.
Yeah. Now, as far as Shakur Stevenson versus Robson Conceicao, and we both like Conceicao. Conceicao is a good fighter, and Shakur Stevenson should be applauded for fighting.
Yeah,
Nakathila is aged better than we expected.
for sure.
Then he had Jermell Herring. Then he had
Valdez.
Valdez, and now he's going straight to Conceicao, who many people felt beat Oscar Valdez. So not an easy fight, not an easy style. And I like
I
where
scored it
Stevenson-
7-5 Conceicao.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like I'm excited where Shakur Stevenson's direction is headed, and Top Rank has no issue putting him in with guys because he's that talented. Like you don't have to worry about a Shakur Stevenson possibly getting upset or putting him in with a guy, because even a guy like Conceicao, who is tough, he's talented. Shakur Stevens is a minus 3,000 favorite. That's how big of a favorite he is against a guy the level of Conceicao. That's who we're talking about with Shakur Stevenson. Remember, we talk about all the time. You can tell almost everything you need to know about a fighter by how his handlers handle him, how his peers react to him, and that's Shakur. His handlers have no problem putting him in there with anybody. His peers at 130, they don't really want to deal with him. So he's in there with Conceicao this Friday night. It's a Friday night fight, not Saturday, which I like. Where I find value in this fight, if I look at the betting odds, Shakur Stevenson by decision is minus 175. It's sitting there pretty at minus 175. The reason I love that is when you have that much of a difference from Shakur Stevenson straight up to Shakur Stevenson by decision, there's a lot of value sitting there at minus 175, close to even odds. And that's what I'm taking here. I kept telling people Canelo versus Golovkin decision was an easy one for me, and take the money if it's on the table. I feel the same way about this one. Like Shakur, he's going to be, I feel like, on 10 this fight. He's fighting at home. If he's not in his prime yet, he's close to it. He's young. He's going to be flying around the ring like a young Floyd against Diego Corrales. That's the type of guy we're going to get in this fight. The issue with Shakur that I see is the Nakathila fight is still fresh in his mind, fresh in my mind. Like he had a guy in Nakathila who was easy to find angles on, that he could have stepped on the gas, but he wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
I think he's going to coast in this fight. I think it's going to be like a 120 to 108, 119, 109.
Wow.
He may even get, I think so. I think he may even get knockdowns in this fight.
Man.
But I don't think he's going to stop Conceicao. I don't.
Okay.
And I like Conceicao. I think highly of him, but that's how highly I think of Shakur Stevenson.
For sure.
I think he's a great
A couple of things. So I feel like in the Nakathila fight, I'm sure he felt something, like whether it was on a shoulder, I'm sure he felt that power.
Big right
hand. I think, yeah, because the reason I'm saying that is like, I mean, Nakathila just utterly destroyed my dude Rochelle. Like, he just annihilated him. Like Now some people are gonna say, well, because the Valdez fight took a lot out of him, and maybe there's some truth to that, but I don't know. Like, I just think, maybe we should just give Nakathila his flowers and give him his credit. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel about it, right? We'll see, because like I'm seeing on Instagram Berchelt's not going anywhere. He's still training. So we'll see. We'll see. If he starts getting knocked out Roy Jones style after every fight, and I'm talking about the old Roy Jones, then obviously there's something wrong with Berchelt. But if Berchelt goes out there and he looks like good old Berchelt and he just starts beating up the level of opposition he was beating before Valdez, then it is what it is. You know what I mean? So we're going to have to wait and see on that. But
Valdez is a very good fighter. Very good fighter.
Yeah. Plus, like not only that, like Nakatillo's going to have other fights. We're going to see. I'd love to see Nakatillo versus Valdez. You know what I mean? I think that's a great fight. But here's the thing. The one thing I'm not a believer in is, and I'm not saying you are or anybody in particular, but I'm not a believer in the power of Shakur. I'm a believer in his skill. I'm a believer in his abilities, right, to box and stuff like that. But I think anytime Shakur, let me put it this way. I know you had said that you could have seen the Valdez fight a sweep, right? Possibly. Or at least to be more accurate, I think you said you don't think he clearly lost any rounds, right?
Well, what I've said about Shakur is I haven't definitively seen him lose a round.
There we go. Definitively. Like he's never lost a round where people say, man, Shakur got his ass whooped there. Like, you know what I mean? I get that. Now, I'm not saying he got his ass whooped, but I think that third round is a clear Valdez round, right? That's just how I feel about it. I think Conceicao, who I scored 7-5 against Valdez, I think his footwork's really good. I mean, we're talking about a gold medalist here, right? We're talking about someone who was really good in the amateurs. Well, we're talking about someone who had a win over Loma, even though it was overturned. I forgot the reason, but to compete with Lomachenko and have your hand raised, even if they took it away, or even if there was a scoring, I forget the reason why they overturned it. Whatever it was, you were competitive, obviously, with Lomachenko, right? That means a lot. Like Loma's a dude. How many? One loss? That's it. Like it would have been two. They never overturned that one, So that's important. We're talking about a dude that is skilled, right? And this is someone that, look, I picked Valdez to win. I'm not here to say, oh, I told you guys, but I did, warn people, don't overlook this. Don't overlook this dude. He's hungry. I've seen him on Instagram. He's training. He trains like a fighter. He lives a fighter lifestyle. This dude ain't coming to lay down. That's an attitude you need to have. He's in Shakur's face, talking back to him like, yo, I'm here to win. And I like that in a fighter. And what do we see? Bam Rodriguez, right?
Yeah.
Last Saturday, he was in the ring with someone who didn't get the memo that he's supposed to get dominated and destroyed.
Right.
You know what I mean? He didn't get the memo that he's supposed to just lay down for this dude, or you're not going to win anyways, so just fuck it. Go with emotions. No, he came to win, right? So, and I do believe Conceicao is going to come with that attitude, right? With that said, 8-4 Shakur.
8-4. So you think that Conceicao can? There's going to be a point in this fight where Shakur says, "I'm going to fight here. I'm going to fight." Where it could be
I think
5 rounds to 3-ish at some point.
Shakur's going to be the aggressor in this fight, believe it or not. And people are going, what? Like, no, he's going to be the aggressor in this fight. He's going to have to be. Conceicao's not going to be the aggressor in this fight. It's not how he fights. Conceicao is very similar to Lara, bro. Like, they're very similar in that sense, right?
You think it could be
I think Lara has a better straight for sure. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I just think he knows how to win rounds. Like, he knows how to do the things that he needs to do to win rounds, right? I just think Shakur's going to separate himself halfway through the fight. He's going to figure out the patterns. Like Conceicao's a pattern fighter. Shakur's not. Shakur's going to figure out the pattern. Right? Yeah, Shakur is a situational fighter, right? Shakur reacts to the jab that you throw. Shakur's combinations are not pre-coded. He lands the combinations depending on what's happening in the moment. Conceicao, not so much. Nothing wrong with that. We've had a lot of great fighters that are pattern fighters, but I think halfway through the fight, he's going to figure out the pattern, right? And he's going to start, like, I'll say this. I think Conceicao will be up early, like 4-2 or something like that. And then I think he's going to get routed, like the second half of the fight. Like, I think he's going to figure him out, and it's going to reach a point where Shakur knows what Conceicao is going to do before Conceicao does it, right? And I think he'll sweep him in the second half of the fight. That's how I believe it's going to happen, right? I can't discount Conceicao's great footwork, his speed, his
He's a good
Great
fighter.
combinations when he wants to throw them, and he will. He doesn't give a shit, bro. He'll make the fight boring, like maybe he needs to. Whatever he needs to do, he'll make it ugly. He'll whatever he needs to do. Like he's like, you think you're sticking up the joint? Well, let me take a big shit right now. Let's see, right? So like that's what's going to happen here. Like I don't know how exciting the fight's going to be. To be honest with you, I'm just talking from a technical perspective. But I kind of scout the guys. I mean, he's got a solid jab. He's got a solid. He doesn't have that one punch where I'm like, oh my god. But everything is solid. Like everything. The footwork is solid. He's fast. I think he's got pretty good reflexes. That's going to give Shakur some issues, bro. At least early. I don't think Shakur's been in with someone like this that could match him speed for speed, like early. I just don't. And if you take even the greats, bro, even Mayweather. He eventually figured the guys out and dominated them the rest of the fight, but he had trouble with Zab Judah speed. He had trouble with chop
Mostly
a little bit.
The first 2 rounds.
Yeah, mostly the first 2 rounds. But now, granted, once he figured it out, it was a wrap.
It was a wrap.
But I think it's going to take some time, to be honest.
Now, that's why I agree with this. Don't underestimate both of these fighters' willingness to stink up the fight if they have to make it easier for themselves. And that's why I strongly like the distance minus 175. I already put money down on it, and I likely do it again. And maximize the value of your bet, because the over-under for this fight is 10.5 rounds, and the over is minus 250. But I feel strongly Shakur is going to win the fight. And I feel strongly is going the distance. So I'm playing Shakur distance minus 175. But my concern with this fight is that is going to be a stinker. That's going to be an ugly fight. And that the reason is my concern is we talked about yesterday, and we talked a little bit about today about having
Lara Troutish. That's the feeling I'm getting.
Right. You want to get somebody warmed up in the bullpen for when Canelo needs to hand the baton to somebody. There's a ton of young American talent, super talented guys. Bam, Shakur, possibly a Devin Haney, Virgil, and Boots. But we're looking for a star. I can point you in direction of the recycling process is going to happen with great fighters. There's a lot of young, great talent coming up, especially American young talent. But who's going to be the star? And I don't think a lot of these dudes feel like they can be Mayweather in every way possible, that they can decision guys and then get the same market, tap into the same market that Mayweather had.
Well, not even Mayweather was. Mayweather was in Mayweather every class.
There's certain like lightning in a bottle, right? You're not going to clone what Mayweather did. You're not. So if you think you're just going to 120 to 108 guys to death for 2 to 3 times per year, and then 5 years from now you're going to be a star, I'm not so sure that's going to happen. So I want to see entertainment. I want to see Shakur step on the gas 8th, 9th round when he has guys hurt. And he showed flashes of that against Oscar Valdez. Because we both
but you know what?
I know I'll speak for myself. I'm high on Oscar Valdez. So after the fight, I was just super impressed with Shakur. But what I want to see is the entertainment value to come with that, right?
Yeah, like I think a lot of great points. And I think not only is it, I would like to see a more exciting fight. I want to see Shakur get more on the front foot, get a little more aggressive, take a little more chances, right? But what people need to realize, with chance comes a big reward, right? Like, and we see it in all sports. Like usually the teams that are too conservative and don't take chances, like they don't go all the way. You know what I mean? Now boxing is a little different, but what I'm trying to say is this: it just happens that in this fight, I honestly do believe that it actually favors Shakur to be more aggressive and cut off the ring on this dude and break him down. Like I think that's the easiest pathway to victory, and it also happens to be the more exciting one. So he might as well go for it that way. That's just my opinion. If he wants to make it a staring match, right? If he makes it a fencing match, then that I'm not too sure he beats Conceicao. If he makes it a staring match and they're fencing each other, because you never know how a judge is going to score it if you're just tapping each other and playing patty cake. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, because that's what it becomes. It becomes a game of tag. Like, I don't like the sport of boxing that's supposed to be a fight, right? Becoming a game of tag, a game of fencing. I don't like that. I don't like, well, boom, 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 I hit you 2 times. I'm going to run around the ring. Aha, I landed 3, you landed 0. Woo, 10-9. I don't like that. You know what I mean? I think that's a flaw in the scoring system too. But that's another story. If he goes after like this guy and he cuts off the ring, he's a much better boxer on the inside and outside. Okay, than Conceicao, especially from mid range. He's better than Conceicao. Go at him. Make Conceicao miss while you're inside. Boom, land to the body. You're going to break this guy down, and you're going to win in more exciting fashion and more clear fashion. So how often is it, hey, it just happens to fit? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that saying. Oh, it's called boxing, not fighting.
It's hit and don't get hit. Look, we don't mind hit and don't get hit. All we're saying is we'd like to see a little more hitting. That's it.
And real hitting, like what's with this tap, 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 boom. Move around, tap, 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 boom. And then you're frustrating your opponent. And then we have people like, yeah, I would rather get knocked the fuck out than be jabbed all night. Like, okay, whatever you say.
And that's
you know what I
point,
mean? Like, I guess.
People go to fights to be entertained. At the end of the day, people tune in to be entertained. And you're not.
But you get my point, though. Like in this case, there's actually an incentive to be entertaining, not just because, of course, you'll get more fans, it'll be more exciting, but the more entertaining path, it just happens to be the more effective path against Conceicao.
Yeah. So let's see it. It's more effective, both financially for you in the future and in this fight. So let's see it. I hope it's the case, and I hope it's not a lot of tagging and running for both fighters and a lot of clinching, which is my fear.
Bro, like if this continues, like they're gonna have boxers wear suits now, where like you just touch them and then like, damage. Like like we're gonna have to pretend
like
damage.
Tag, huh?
Laser tag with gloves, and we're gonna have to just like. And in the post fight, like it's gonna be awesome. They're gonna be like, "Well, he really damaged the ribs. You could see the lights blinking. The computers detected that if it was a real fight, those ribs would be damaged." And like that's where we're heading, bro. Mm-hmm. And fencing with gloves.
Yep. So just in conclusion, let's wait longer on the pay-per-view numbers. Let's get all the pay-per-view numbers. But my fear is, and my point this whole time, since I've had this channel, is you're likely not going to get any kind of real numbers, concrete numbers. And you'll be able to tell over time, though, right? You'll be able to tell, as D-Style said, over time, what deals are Canelo going to be offered next year by Trust Fund Eddie, by Al Heyman. And I guarantee you those deals are going to be astronomical. And I guarantee you one of the reasons why Spence and Crawford isn't made yet is they're struggling in that boardroom to figure out how to pay these guys the money that they want and still make money and be in the green, while Canelo is out here still wheeling and dealing. But we'll be able to tell over time. Also, I like Joyce by stoppage, and I like Shakur by decision. What's your final thoughts, your conclusion?
Shakur decision for sure. I'm pretty confident about that one. And I also Joyce by decision. Although he could stop Parker, but that's a tough one. But I think it's going to be tough. Parker won't know what to do to survive. In my opinion, he's a veteran, and he's been in there with big punchers like Joshua, and he didn't go anywhere. So we'll see. I also don't think Parker could hurt Joyce too, by the way. Joyce has been hit clean by Takam, by Dubois, and like
he's been hit clean a lot.
Jesus Christ, he kept coming, and I think that's what makes him a scary fighter for some guys. But we will see. But that's all I got.
And with Joyce, you're constantly punching up, and you constantly have a guy leaning on you and jabbing and short shots. And I think that's maybe what people are missing in the film study. And because it's tough to see stuff fly off the screen with Joyce, but it's happening.
Now, I just want to just address Man in Water. He had a comment earlier. So he's saying, where was this expectation for excitement and criticism for the snooze fest between Canelo and Triple G? Instead, we got apologies, right? Look, it's like this. One guy is trying to reach stardom. One guy's already a star. That's number one, right? Mm-hmm. Second, if you take the trilogy in its totality, look, I agree that the third fight was uneventful for sure. I don't feel I've ever apologized for anything, but I'm not being apologetic. But what I will say is that overall they gave us some good action, especially in the first two fights, right? Like these guys have given a lot of themselves to the sport. So the way you judge fighters that are, especially like a Golovkin on his way out, is a little different than how you judge a fighter that's coming on his way up in terms of, okay, not in face value, but in terms of how you interpret how their performances were or whatnot, right? These guys like already making their millions, already making their money. People already showing up to their fights. Shakur, he's not there yet, right? So that's what we're saying. And if you take Shakur's last 10 fights and Gennadi's or Canelo's last 10 fights, I would venture to say that Gennady and Canelo's fights were far more exciting than Shakur fights.
And on top of that, once again, people are addressing ghosts and stuff that isn't here in this podcast because both of us said we didn't like the fight. I was very vocal about that. I don't want to speak for you, but I didn't think
I believe in equity, Cal. Like, I believe that there's such thing as equity, right? Not just in finance. I just mean in general. Like Canelo has built up a lot of equity where I could overlook. I'm overlooking a pretty boring fight. Like, but he's made up for it though. Like his other fights were not boring in my opinion, right? With Shakur, he hasn't built up this equity where, like, if he has a terrible performance with Conceicao, that I'm okay with it. Like, you know what I mean? That's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, and which is why I was critical of him against Nakathila. But since then, he's built up some equity with me. But I want to see him continue to try to be a star. I want Shakur to be a star. I want a Devin Haney to be a star. I want a Bam Rodriguez to be a star. In order for them to do that, they have to have that key ingredient, because the next Mayweather is never walking through that door. It's not going to happen. That's one of one. It's never going to happen again. That dude was, and what he did and how he polarized the market, he was special. It's never going to happen again. He's still out there making money on
but here's the other thing. Mayweather wasn't UDing dudes at 130. He was destroying them. True. Right? He annihilated Diego Corrales. At 135, he UD'd, but like a dude like fucking Castillo. You know what I mean? Like these were real fighters like that he was fighting, right? Like levels above what Shakur's fighting. Like nothing against Conceicao, but he's not a Castillo. You know what I mean? That's my opinion. Like
he lit Corrales up. Good Lord.
He was an underdog in the Corrales fight, right? And then at 147, I mean, look, Mayweather did get a lot of criticism about his fights, but it's like this. He had to do a lot to get there. It's not like it just happened overnight. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he did need to move up a couple weight classes to fight an Oscar De La Hoya, and that's what he had. That's what propelled him a little bit. That's a springboard. That's a jump start. Like right now, there's no jump start. There's no set of cables that's gonna turn his engine on, right? Or the battery. So how is he gonna do it? The only spark, you got to do it with giving people what they want. You know, like that's what I'm saying. Yep.
And when we have a boring fight with Canelo, as you say, it's more of the exception than the rule. And we both said tonight. And I thought it was clear. Alex? What's that?
Do you believe in ghosts?
Yes.
Because I feel like we're talking sometimes, and then people just show up. Oh, Eddie Hearn said 10 times more, 10 times more, and I'm just.
And I told him that when we spoke. This guy that I'm not going to mention last, and I gave him a 15 minutes to just do his nonsense when he came on the show. It's like, dude, I didn't say that. What you're telling me right now, I didn't say. You didn't hear it here. Go talk to me.
We're signed to match you, Alex. We got to do it all the
way. I'm constantly saying, I didn't say that. I didn't say it. All right. So that's what this is.
Yeah.
This is what this becomes. So anyway, tomorrow night, where are we at?
Round table, ringside report. I'll probably do a live as well today at some point. And just FYI to everybody, if you want to catch the ladies, Women Crushing a Wednesday on In the Ring with Christine. But yeah, roundtable tomorrow, ringside reporter. We got a panel, so just be ready for it. We got Ring IQ on. We got Lukey. Shout out to Lukey. We got Lee Groves. And we got somebody else. So just stay tuned.
Sweet. Appreciate y'all for coming through. We'll see y'all later. Y'all make sure to hit that like if you're watching this in the archives and leave a comment below.
10 times more.
Ooh,
Maybe the ghost said.